Our movie begins with a clan of rats, among them a rat named Remy, who possesses an exceptionally rare sense of taste and smell. He introduces us to his brother Emile and his father, who is the leader of their clan. One day, Remy smells something strange in the food and warns his father not to eat it. It turns out that the food was laced with rat poison. As a result, Remy's father appoints him as the clan's official poison detector to ensure no one eats anything dangerous. Remy constantly argues with his father, trying to convince him that they should stop eating garbage and start stealing proper food from kitchens. But his father refuses, warning him that kitchens and humans are extremely dangerous. Ignoring his father's warnings, Remy sneaks into the nearby house of an old lady and makes his way into her kitchen. There, he's mesmerized watching the most famous chef in Paris, Chef Gusteau, on TV. Remy begins tasting the clean, delicious food from the kitchen, but suddenly, the old lady wakes up, and Remy panics and escapes. While wandering through the garden, Remy spots a mushroom and becomes fascinated by it. He quickly gets some cheese from Emile and gathers a few more ingredients to cook a meal with it. He climbs to the rooftop and cooks the dish using the chimney's heat, but out of nowhere, lightning strikes, causing him to fall. Yet Remy is still thrilled by the taste of the cooked mushroom. To make the dish even better, Remy and Emile sneak back into the kitchen to find the right spices. Remy tells his brother about Gusteau's book, Anyone Can Cook, which inspired his love for cooking. Just then, Chef Gusteau appears on TV, saying that anyone can cook, as long as they believe in themselves. Remy is shocked and deeply saddened when he finds out that Gusteau had died after his restaurant lost a star due to a harsh review by the world's most feared food critic, Anton Ego. Suddenly, the old lady sees Remy and Emile and starts shooting at them with her shotgun. The two brothers get separated as they try to escape. Emile ends up dangling from the chandelier, and the old lady nearly kills him. Luckily, she runs out of bullets, allowing Remy to rescue him. But she reloads and shoots at the ceiling, collapsing it, and the entire rat clan that lived there falls through the roof. The rats flee through windows and doors. Remy grabs Gusteau's cookbook and escapes. The rest of the rats get into small boats they had hidden and begin floating away. Remy tries to follow them using the cookbook as a raft, but before he can catch up, the old lady appears again and starts shooting. The rats scatter, and Remy ends up getting separated and entering a tunnel behind his father. Despite trying to follow, he can't keep up and takes a different path. He falls and ends up alone in the sewers. Feeling lost and heartbroken, Remy opens Gusteau's book, and to his surprise, the spirit of Chef Gusteau appears and talks to him. Gusteau tells Remy that if he's hungry, he should explore and search. Remy responds in sorrow, saying he's lost his family and can't go back. Gusteau tells him that if he keeps focusing on what he's lost, he'll never see what lies ahead. Inspired by these words, Remy gets out of the sewers and manages to find some food. The spirit of Gusteau reappears, reminding him that he's not a thief. He's a cook. Remy reflects and decides that stealing isn't who he is. He sneaks through the walls and exits the house. Once outside, he climbs to the rooftop and is amazed to discover he's in Paris, right near Chef Gusteau's famous restaurant. He decides to go and see it. Inside, we see the kitchen buzzing with chefs preparing orders under the supervision of the head chef, Skinner. At that moment, a young man named Linguini arrives and tells Skinner that he's the son of Gusteau's old friend and that his mother has passed away. He hands Skinner a letter left by his mother and asks for a job. Skinner refuses, but another chef points out that they don't have a garbage boy. So Skinner reluctantly agrees to hire him. Meanwhile, Remy and the spirit of Gusteau are watching the kitchen from the rooftop, discussing the roles of each chef. Then they notice Linguini mopping the floor. He accidentally spills a pot of soup and, in a panic, tries to fix the recipe so no one notices. Remy is furious at what Linguini has done and wants to warn the chefs. But just then, a window opens and Remy falls into the sink. He quickly escapes and runs around the kitchen looking for a way out. He finds an open window and heads toward it, but pauses when he sees Linguini taste the soup and clearly dislike it. Remy decides to fix it. He washes his hands, lowers the flame, adds milk and other ingredients. Every time he tries to leave, he remembers something else and returns to add more herbs and vegetables, carefully enhancing the flavor. Suddenly, Remy realizes that Linguini saw him cooking everything. As Remy tries to escape, Linguini catches him and hides him. At that moment, Skinner arrives and yells at Linguini for changing the soup. Then one of the chefs takes the soup and gives it to the waiter who serves it to a customer. Skinner becomes furious and tells Linguini he's fired. But when the waiter returns, he tells them that the customer was a famous food critic, and she loved the soup. Everyone is surprised. Skinner tastes the soup himself and likes it too. Still, he scolds Linguini, saying he's just a janitor and not allowed to cook. At that moment, the chef Colette steps in and reminds everyone of Gusteau's motto: anyone can cook. She adds that Skinner can't fire Linguini because the critic liked his soup and may return for more. Skinner agrees to keep Linguini, but under Colette's supervision. He tells Linguini to recreate the soup. Remy tries to escape again, but Skinner spots him and alerts the whole kitchen. Linguini manages to trap Remy in a jar. Skinner tells him to get rid of the rat far away, so no one finds out there's a rat in the kitchen, or the restaurant could be shut down. Linguini takes Remy on his bike and heads toward the river to throw him in. But when he looks into Remy's eyes, he feels sorry for him and changes his mind. He confesses that he doesn't know how to cook and can't remake the soup. He needs the job to survive. Suddenly, Remy signals that he can cook the soup again. Linguini proposes a deal. He'll release Remy if Remy teaches him how to cook. As soon as the jar is opened, Remy runs away, but moments later, he changes his mind and returns, agreeing to help. They both head to Linguini's apartment. Remy is amazed by the place and watches the Eiffel Tower in awe. The next day, Linguini wakes up and can't find Remy. He thinks the rat stole food. But later, he's surprised by what the critic wrote about the restaurant, praising the soup. Linguini goes to the kitchen, hiding Remy under his clothes. His odd movements confuse everyone. Skinner tells him to recreate the soup. Linguini doesn't know what ingredients to use, and Remy struggles to reach what he needs. In frustration, Remy bites Linguini, who slaps him, and then goes to the pantry. There, Remy notices the markings on his body and realizes they need a better solution to cook together. But he's too hungry to focus. Linguini notices and gives him some cheese to eat. Suddenly, Skinner walks in. Linguini quickly turns off the lights and hides Remy. Skinner becomes suspicious and tells Linguini to get back to work. After he leaves, Remy hides under Linguini's hat and starts controlling his movements using his hair. They go home and begin training. Linguini blindfolds himself while Remy controls his actions through his hair, teaching him how to chop vegetables, pick ingredients, and cook properly. After a full day of training, Remy is able to fully control Linguini's body. The next day, Linguini successfully makes the soup again with Remy's help, hidden under his hat. When Skinner tastes it, he's impressed. They realize Linguini must now learn how to cook all kinds of dishes to keep working in the kitchen. Linguini is assigned to Colette, who trains him harshly. She tells him she's the only woman in the kitchen and won't risk her career for someone like him. Despite her toughness, Linguini starts to like her. Meanwhile, in his office, Skinner is exploiting Gusteau's name to sell his own products. While reading letters, he finds one from Gusteau's friend and destroys it. He then calls a lawyer. The lawyer reads Gusteau's will. If no heir appears within 2 years of his death, all of his assets go to Skinner. Skinner becomes furious and tells the lawyer that he knows Gusteau had a relationship and that Linguini is his son. With less than 2 months left until the deadline, Skinner knows that if he hides the truth, he'll own everything. The lawyer suspects Linguini doesn't even know Gusteau is his father because his mother never told him. The lawyer takes a hair from Gusteau's old hat and asks Skinner to get a sample of Linguini's hair for a DNA test. Then he leaves the office. Then Linguini continues learning under Colette's supervision. She teaches him the basics of cooking, how to keep the kitchen clean, and introduces him to the suppliers who bring them vegetables. She also trains him in how to handle a knife quickly and properly for cutting. Remy is impressed by all the instructions and skills Colette is teaching Linguini. Later, Linguini goes to thank her for everything she taught him. One day, the customers ask the waiter to serve them a new dish, as they've already tried everything on the menu. The waiter heads to the kitchen and informs the chefs that the guests want something different. Skinner decides to have the waiter tell the guests that Linguini will prepare a new dish that isn't on the menu. Skinner then goes to Linguini and asks him to make an old recipe by Gusteau, one that Gusteau himself described as very difficult. Still, Linguini and Colette begin preparing the recipe and are surprised by some of the ingredients. At that moment, Remy decides to change the recipe. He controls Linguini and starts picking new ingredients from the chefs. Everyone in the kitchen is confused by Linguini's strange behavior. Colette gets upset when she sees him altering the recipe and tries to stop him. But Remy is in full control and continues with his own version, preventing Colette from interfering at the last second. The waiter takes the new dish and serves it to the customers, who are amazed by the taste. The chefs are informed that the customers loved it and ordered 7 more plates of the same dish. Remy continues cooking through Linguini, and more orders keep coming in as each customer who tries the new meal wants more. Remy is overjoyed while cooking. At the end of the day, all the chefs celebrate Linguini's success, except for Skinner, who's clearly frustrated. He notices something strange about Linguini's hat and begins to suspect a rat is hiding inside. Linguini leaves the kitchen to give Remy some food so he can eat and rest. But as he returns, Skinner suddenly appears and snatches Linguini's hat, convinced the rat isn't inside. He then tells Linguini to come with him to his office. Meanwhile, Remy is eating happily when he hears a sound coming from the garbage pile. He grabs a knife and goes to check. He's surprised to find that the sound is coming from his brother Emile, who runs up to him and hugs him. Emile says they've been searching for him everywhere. Remy takes him into the pantry to get him some food and tells him to savor the taste. But Emile eats it quickly and insists they return to the clan to see their father. At the same time, Skinner gives Linguini grape juice to distract him and starts asking if he likes pets like rats. He tries to lure him into revealing where he learned to cook. But Linguini is completely out of it, not making any sense, which frustrates Skinner. He angrily orders him to clean the restaurant before leaving. On the other hand, Remy returns to the Rat Clan, who are celebrating his return. He tells his father he can't live with them anymore, but he'll visit from time to time. His father gets upset at this and is about to argue with him. Emile tries to calm them, but accidentally mentions that Remy is now friends with a human. That angers the father, who insists that every rat must protect the clan. But Remy disagrees with his father's way of thinking and says he's going toward a better future. Then he leaves. The next day, Remy returns to the kitchen and finds that Linguini had cleaned the entire place and is asleep from exhaustion. When Remy hears someone coming, he quickly hides in Linguini's hat. Colette enters, surprised to see him asleep. Remy controls Linguini to wake him up. Colette starts talking to him and asks about what happened between him and Chef Skinner the night before. She gets frustrated when he doesn't respond and tells him she thought he was different from the other chefs. She seems to like him, but walks away disappointed, saying she made a mistake teaching him how to be a chef. Linguini follows her, wanting to confess the truth, that he doesn't know how to cook and someone has been helping him, but she doesn't understand a word he's saying. Remy, scared that Linguini will reveal the secret, stops him at the last moment and instead makes him confess his feelings for her. Meanwhile, food critic Anton Ego is informed by his assistant that Gusteau's restaurant is gaining back its reputation. Anton becomes furious and decides to visit the restaurant again to review it and bring its rating down. At the same time, Skinner's lawyer tells him that a DNA test has confirmed that Linguini is Gusteau's son. Skinner becomes enraged and claims Linguini is fooling everyone with the help of a rat. The lawyer doesn't believe him and thinks Skinner is crazy, even suggesting he see a psychiatrist. They discuss that Gusteau's will expires in 3 days, and after that, the restaurant and everything Gusteau owned will belong to Linguini. At the end of the day, Linguini gets on the motorcycle with Colette and they go out together. Meanwhile, Remy accidentally falls and starts running quickly to escape from the humans trying to kill him. He escapes into the sewers, and after a while, he reaches the restaurant. Just before he enters, he's surprised to find a group of rats with him, all looking for food. Remy heads into the kitchen to get them something to eat, but he's surprised to find the pantry door locked. He sneaks into the chef's office to get the key, and is shocked when he sees a photo of Linguini attached to Gusteau's will. As he reads a letter from Gusteau's friend and looks at a DNA test, he discovers that Linguini is actually Gusteau's son and the rightful heir to everything he owned. Suddenly, Skinner walks in and sees Remy taking the letter and will. Remy runs away with them, which enrages Skinner, who chases after him. Skinner keeps pursuing Remy through the city, but Remy uses the papers he's carrying to glide through the air toward a distant boat. When Skinner tries to jump after him, he fails and falls into the water. Later, Skinner returns to the restaurant and uses Linguini's presence in the office to fake things, acting as if Linguini has now taken over the restaurant legally. The news spreads in the papers, and everyone finds out that Linguini is Gusteau's son. At that point, Linguini decides to fire Skinner and burns all the commercial products Skinner had been selling. After a while, Linguini buys a new home. Meanwhile, we see Remy upset with his brother Emile, who keeps bringing over groups of rats to eat. On the day of the press conference, the journalists arrive and ask Linguini about the secret behind his cooking talent. Remy expects Linguini to tell the truth, but instead, Linguini lies and says that the real secret is Colette. She also arrives and joins the press conference, which makes Remy furious. Suddenly, food critic Anton Ego enters, making everyone nervous, especially Linguini. Remy watches the whole scene unfold as Ego tells Linguini that he's a lover of food, but if it doesn't meet his expectations, he won't even swallow it. He announces that he'll return the next night to try their food and then leaves. Meanwhile, Skinner contacts the health inspector and tells him there are rats in Gusteau's restaurant. The inspector says he'll visit the restaurant as soon as possible. Shortly after, Linguini yells at Remy for distracting him during the press conference, kicks him out of the restaurant, and gives him time off from cooking. Skinner, who has been watching from afar, realizes the rat is the one actually doing the cooking. Remy is furious with Linguini and recalls his brother Emile and the rats who just want to eat. He understands the situation and invites them to dinner after the restaurant closes. He also asks Emile to bring their father and the entire rat clan. Once the restaurant is closed, Remy, his father, and all the rats enter the food storage and start eating. Suddenly, the door opens, so they all hide. At that moment, Linguini enters and apologizes to Remy for the misunderstanding. He tells him he never could have gotten this far without him. When Linguini enters the pantry, he's shocked to see all the rats inside the restaurant. Remy becomes deeply saddened by what's happened. He realizes his father was right, that they're just rats. He leaves the restaurant. The next day, Linguini tries to encourage the chefs and rally them to prepare for Anton Ego's visit, but they don't understand what he wants. Meanwhile, Remy is standing outside the restaurant thinking of his brother Emile, who's hungry and trying to eat from the trash. Remy goes to stop him, but ends up getting trapped in the rat trap instead. Just then, Skinner arrives, thrilled that he finally caught Remy. He locks him in a car trunk and demands that Remy create a new recipe for him, or else he'll kill him. He closes the trunk, unaware that Emile saw where the car was parked. Later, Anton Ego arrives at the restaurant and asks the waiter to bring him the best dish prepared by Chef Linguini. Skinner shows up in disguise, sits at the nearby table, and orders the same thing. Meanwhile, Remy, still locked up and heartbroken, talks to Gusteau's spirit. He expresses how hopeless he feels, but Gusteau continues to encourage him. Then, Remy's father and the rat clan arrive and set him free. Remy decides to return to the restaurant, followed by his father and brother. Inside the kitchen, the chefs are stressed and confused, unsure what to serve Anton Ego. Linguini loses his temper and becomes unable to cook anything. At that moment, Remy rushes into the kitchen. The chefs see him and are about to attack, but Linguini stops them. Everyone finally discovers the truth that the rat was the one who cooked all the delicious food the customers loved. They also realize he had been hiding under Linguini's hat the entire time. He asks them to help so they can serve the customers' orders, but all the chefs are shocked by what they hear and decide to leave. Even Colette walks away and abandons him. Linguini is devastated, left completely alone with no one to support him. So he leaves Remy and goes into the office. Meanwhile, Colette is shown crying at a traffic light when she happens to notice Gusteau's cookbook titled, "Anyone Can Cook." We return to Remy, who is extremely sad. He goes to his father to apologize, but instead, his father apologizes to him for misunderstanding him and tells him how proud he is of his son's courage. Then he calls the entire rat colony, and they all gather to help Remy. Suddenly, the health inspector enters the restaurant and is shocked by what he sees. He tries to escape, but Remy's father and a group of rats chase after him, climb onto his car, and manage to stop him. Meanwhile, Remy tells the rest of the rats to get sterilized so they won't contaminate the food. He assigns different teams to different stations in the kitchen. Linguini is amazed when he sees the rats cooking and gets so excited that he jumps into action, delivering dishes to the customers and apologizing for the delay. In the kitchen, Remy supervises all the rats, giving each one advice and tasting the food they prepare. Colette enters and is stunned to see the rats cooking. At that moment, Linguini approaches her and thanks her for coming back. Colette is even more surprised when she learns that Remy wants to serve ratatouille with sauce to Anton Ego. Remy's father and the other rats return, having tied up the health inspector and locked him in the storage room. Remy then begins explaining to Colette how to cook the ratatouille dish. He adds all the necessary ingredients, and once it's ready, Linguini takes it to serve to Anton Ego, and also to Skinner, who is secretly hiding among the customers. As soon as Ego tastes the food, he's instantly transported back to his childhood and remembers how his mother used to make him the same dish. He is overwhelmed by how good it tastes, drops his pen, and continues eating with joy. At that point, Skinner bursts into the kitchen in anger. The rats quickly catch him and throw him next to the health inspector. Ego thanks Linguini for the wonderful meal, but then Linguini reveals he wasn't the one who cooked it. He tells Ego that if he really wants to know who did, he'll have to wait until all the customers leave. Once the restaurant clears out, Linguini and Colette take Anton Ego into the kitchen and introduce him to Remy. They explain everything and how Remy had been cooking the whole time. Although Ego is confused at first, he thanks them for the dinner and leaves. The next day, Ego writes in his review that he had the best meal of his life from a source no one would ever expect, and that the chef who made it truly amazed him. He finally understood Gusteau's famous motto, "Anyone can cook," declared that Remy was, without a doubt, the best chef in Paris. He promised to return again. Thanks to Anton Ego's article, Gusteau's restaurant regains its five-star status after having lost it, but sadly, the health authorities shut down the restaurant due to the presence of rats in the kitchen. Later, Linguini and Colette open a brand new restaurant, which becomes a huge success with many customers, including Anton Ego, who now visits regularly just to eat Remy's food. And finally, Remy achieves his dream and becomes the best chef in